It might feel strange to say this, but when you reach your 70s or 80s, you realize how much of life has passed in the blink of an eye. I remember being in my 30s, thinking that old age was a world I'd never touch. Then, I spent my 40s raising a family and building a career, and my 50s and 60s trying to balance the joys of grandparenthood with aches in places I never noticed before. By the time I got to my 70s, I realized that life wasn't slowing down just because I wanted more time to savor each day. Instead, it felt like each morning brought new changes to my body and mind. Suddenly, I found myself walking less, being more careful about how I climb the stairs, and noticing that my muscles don't move the way they used to. In this phase, the things that truly matter become much clearer than ever before. You learn to let go of what isn't essential and hold tight to the few things that add color to your day. It's like refining a painting until only the most beautiful strokes remain. Yet, even as we physically slow down, there's a certain wisdom that blossoms. We start to see the truth behind the advice we once brushed off as old folks talk. Now, that same advice seems golden because we finally understand why it was offered in the first place. Life after 70 or 80 isn't just about accepting limitations. It's about uncovering small treasures in day-to-day existence. There are certain habits or approaches that can bring a sense of stability and joy, even when our legs complain about each step. I'd love to share a few of these ideas with you, but before we get further, I'd like to know where you're joining us from, and if you find any value in these videos, a like and subscribe would mean a lot. Your simple act of support reminds me that we're in this together, navigating the later chapters of life with grace, curiosity, and hope. One of the things I've learned is the value of daily mental stimulation. When I say mental stimulation, I don't necessarily mean solving hard puzzles or diving into advanced mathematics, though if you enjoy that, it's a great choice. Sometimes it's just about reading an interesting article or watching a documentary that sparks your curiosity. It's about challenging your mind, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to keep your thoughts lively and your curiosity alive. Too many folks think once they're past a certain age, their learning days are over. But that's like saying because a car has some miles on it, you should keep it parked forever. Our mind wants to stay active. It thrives when we give it something to explore. A curious mind can keep your spirits high, even if your legs are not as strong as they used to be. It might be something simple like reading about a distant country you've never visited or learning a new recipe. The important part is to keep the brain engaged, to keep that spark of discovery glowing. Another thing that's taken on more meaning is the importance of gentle movement that respects your current limits. You might not be walking marathons or jogging through the neighborhood these days, and that's perfectly fine. But some sort of regular, low-impact activity can do wonders. It might be a slow walk around the block with a neighbor or a relative. It could be a gentle stretching routine you do in your living room, guided by a calming voice on the television. Or maybe it's a bit of gardening, planting a few flowers and breathing in the fresh air. Don't underestimate the power of these small movements. Even if you're walking less than you did 10 or 20 years ago, the body craves a gentle flow. When you find an activity that respects your limitations but still gets you moving, you're giving your joints, muscles, and heart a loving reminder that they're still part of a vibrant life. It's all about balance. Too little movement can make us feel stiff and weary, but too much can lead to strain. When we find that sweet spot, our body thanks us by offering more comfortable days and calmer nights. Nurturing your emotional well-being is also essential. When we were younger, many of us didn't have time to sit around and examine our emotions. Life was busy, responsibilities were calling, and we barely had the bandwidth to catch our breath. But in our 70s and 80s, we often have quieter moments. Sometimes that stillness can magnify worries, regrets, or unresolved feelings. Rather than letting these emotions weigh you down, try to see this phase as an opportunity to make peace with yourself. This can involve talking to a trusted friend or therapist, writing in a journal, or simply allowing yourself to notice how you feel without judgment. We might not be able to change the past, but we can change how we relate to it. When you gently face the emotions you've stored away, you often discover that the weight of them isn't quite as heavy as it seemed. There's a freedom in allowing yourself to say, "Yes, this happened, and I'm still here." Forgiveness, both of yourself and others, can also be a powerful gift you give to your mind and heart. After all, there's only so much time left. Carrying old burdens won't make the road ahead any smoother. Another thing that stands out is the power of having a purpose each day. It doesn't have to be grand or impressive to anyone else. It might be tending to a small garden, making homemade soup for a neighbor, or even writing a short note or email to someone who could use a kind word. In our later years, we might feel we've already done our major tasks. Perhaps we've raised children, worked a career, or contributed to our community in other ways. But the human spirit still needs a reason to greet the morning with a bit of hope. Purpose can be found in small acts that bring warmth to your own life and to those around you. When you lose that sense of purpose, it's like losing a piece of your spark. Sometimes it helps to think of the people you love. Is there a small gesture you can offer them that would add joy to their day? Or consider your own home. Maybe there's a corner that needs tidying, or a stack of old photos that could be organized into an album. The goal isn't to accomplish huge tasks, but to engage with life, to stay in motion both mentally and emotionally, even if your physical steps have become more measured. There's also something to be said for meaningful connection, which might be trickier as we get older. You might have lost close friends or moved away from family, and it can feel lonely when you look around and see empty chairs where beloved faces used to sit. But there's still a world of connection waiting, whether it's through phone calls, community groups, church gatherings, or online platforms designed for seniors. Don't underestimate the peace that comes from hearing a friendly voice on the other end of the line, or the comfort of sharing a meal with a neighbor. Even a short chat about the weather can lift your spirits, because it reminds you that you're part of a larger world. Human beings aren't meant to spend all their time in isolation. While solitude can be peaceful, too much of it can dull the senses. So, if you can, reach out to family members, neighbors, or local organizations that arrange visits or events for seniors. If you're able to get out of the house safely, consider a short outing with friends, even if it's just to the local park or a small cafe. Those face-to-face moments, as simple as they might seem, feed the soul in ways we often take for granted when we're younger. Along with these daily pursuits, don't forget the importance of reflection. By the time you've entered your 70s and 80s, you've gathered a lifetime of experiences, some joyful, some painful, and many in between. There's wisdom in those memories, in the roads you chose and the mistakes you made. Taking time to reflect doesn't mean wallowing in nostalgia. It's about looking back with honesty and grace, seeing what lessons you can still glean. Perhaps there's a person you parted ways with under difficult circumstances. Maybe there's an experience you once thought was a total failure, but that failure taught you something crucial about resilience or compassion. Reflection can bring a sense of completion, of understanding that every chapter led you to where you stand today. It can also shine a light on what you still want to learn or share with the younger generation. There's no rule saying that knowledge can only be passed down by the young. Often, the best teachers are those who've lived long enough to see multiple sides of life. I've found that laughter and a bit of humor go a long way in the later stages of life. We're more aware of our aches and pains, and we might need more doctor's visits than we'd like. But there's a sweetness in still being able to chuckle at life's ironies, in telling a joke that makes a grandchild giggle or a friend's eyes twinkle. Humor doesn't pretend everything is perfect. It just helps soften the edges of reality, reminding us that there's still a lightness to be found in an aging body. Even if you're walking less, you can still share a laugh, watch something silly on television, or find humor in the small mishaps that happen throughout the day. Sometimes, the best medicine for a sore body is a good laugh at the absurdity of trying to open a jar with hands that don't grip like they used to, or at the comical sight of misplacing your reading glasses only to find them perched on your head. That doesn't solve every problem, but it brightens the moment, and these small bright moments are worth their weight in gold. As we wind down, remember that every day you wake up is an opportunity. It might not be as easy to move around. You might need a cane or a walker. Perhaps climbing the stairs feels like a big deal, and you have to pace yourself. That's all right. This phase of life is about acceptance, grace, and finding beauty in small victories. If you can do a short walk without pain, celebrate it. If you can sit outside and watch the birds for a few minutes without feeling rushed, embrace that quiet joy. Each day brings a fresh chance to practice the habits that keep your mind active, your body gently moving, your emotions at peace, and your connections alive. You might not have the same pace you did a few decades ago, but that doesn't mean life stops offering moments of awe and fulfillment. It might just mean you view these moments from a different angle now, one shaped by experience and softened by the passage of time. Let your later years be a period of gentle discovery. Relish the sunrise, marvel at a blooming flower, or find delight in a conversation with someone who truly listens. And if you found even a small bit of comfort or value in these words, I'd be grateful to hear your thoughts or experiences. We might be walking less these days, but our hearts and minds still have miles left to explore.